Look, I don't know about you, but I may just be to the point where for Mike Woodson, it's win or be fired.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Be sure that you are downloading the Game Time app, that you create an account, and you use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers, and whether you are somebody who comes here every day or this is your first time, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you are having a good time. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, all things college basketball. On the show today, we'll take a look around the Big Ten standings, the latest bracketology, what's going on as we are just now flipping the calendar into the month of February with about 6 weeks left to go before the NCAA tournament begins. Indiana is on the road at Wisconsin tonight, and I'm at the point. I think I am. I think I'm ready. I think I'm here. Where for Mike Woodson, at this point in time, is it win or be fired? Is it win or go home for Mike Woodson as the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers? I'm curious on what you think, but I think there's a legitimate argument to where this could be the case. Because let me ask you this, Indiana fan. What has Mike Woodson done this season? What has this team accomplished this season? What have we done in 2024 and 2025 that is significant? Is there a game that we've won that we are proud of? Is there a game that we've performed in that we believe was worthy of him keeping his job? Now, let me ask a flip side question to that. Is there a game or a performance in 24-25 that is worth him losing his job? I think there's a lot more on that side of things than on the first question, don't you? Because I look through this schedule for Indiana, I can't find a single win that I say, man, that was a great win for Indiana. Are there some that were pretty good? Yeah, Penn State, Ohio State on the road, I'll give you those. Sure. I'll give you beating Penn State in the Palestra. I'll give you beating Ohio State and Columbus in overtime. I think those are fine wins. They're not worth anything to me in terms of the NCAA tournament. And I don't think they will be worth a whole lot in terms of making the NCAA tournament. And even if they are, if those are the only ones that you have, that's not going to be enough to get you there. But the second question is the one that I bet you all perked up and said, oh, yeah, there's a ton of games that you can think of that are worthy of having the conversation about Mike Woodson. Let's go through it. Why don't we? I made a list in case you wanted to know. I could say that you start looking through here, I think the Louisville game to start is a very perfect example. The Louisville game in the first round of the Battle for Atlantis. Embarrassing. You looked horrible. Now, Louisville has shown up to be a pretty decent team. Now, they play in the terrible ACC, but Louisville's actually not bad. But it wasn't about Louisville. It's the fact that we looked like we had never played basketball before. We looked like we didn't want to be there. And then we backed that up with the game against Wisconsin. So I have two right there. That's two in my book. The Nebraska game where you go on the road and just get blasted as you have basically the entire Mike Woodson era, right? How about the Chattanooga game? How about the Winthrop game where you had to fight for 40 minutes to get wins in those? We'll count those as one together. We'll count those as a half. So I have that as 4. Is that right? Then the Iowa game, 5, because you got embarrassed. Illinois, 6, because you got embarrassed. That one was at home. That one was inside of Assembly Hall. That's when things started to get ugly, when the Boo Birds and the Fire Mike Woodson started coming down. And then your last 3 games, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue. You go on the road and lose to a bad Northwestern team. You let Maryland come in here, who I told you was good, who I told you was talented, and they beat you on your home floor. In a good game, yes, but you had chances to win and you blew it. And the same thing happened on the road at Purdue last Friday night. where you played your hardest, best game of the year, and when it mattered most, when it came down to the crunch time, to the final 60 seconds, we just blew it away. We just let it go. We just threw it away and said, nah, we're good. Hey, this is a fun game, Purdue, but nah, you go ahead. You earned it. You deserved it. That's too many games to count for Mike Woodson for us to say, yeah, that's not good. Maybe you should be fired for that. Maybe that's not good enough here anymore. And again, I ask you this, which wins do you look at and say, man, that was a good win? I will give you Penn State, Ohio State. I'll even give you USC. I'll even give you USC, given what they've been doing the last couple of games, right? Have you noticed what USC is up to? They're doing okay. They're doing okay. They just beat Michigan State, right? They just beat the top 10 Michigan State. They also have a top 15 win over Illinois. So while they may only be 13-8, and while USC may only be 5-5 in conference play, they have 2 wins to back it up. Yeah, they lost to Wisconsin and they lost to Oregon, but they also lost to us. They also lost to Michigan. But they have 2 wins to make up for that. And that's where Indiana's falling short. That's why it very well could be starting tonight against Wisconsin. And we're going to talk about this game in just a second. It very well could be for Mike Woodson, win or go home. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Do I think if we lose tonight, they'll fire Woody before they get back to Bloomington? No, I don't. I think they would let him keep going. But how long? How long is that leash for him? I think it should be short. I think it should be dependent on how your team plays. And I would hope that your team knows that. I would hope that your team understands that. Because as much as the fan base wants Mike Woodson to be fired, I wonder what the players are truly thinking. And for people that in the media that claim that they know, they don't. So don't listen to them. I'm curious on what the players and what do you do as a player in this situation? I didn't play collegiate level sports. I competed in high school, never had a coach be fired, right? So I've never been in that situation where you're competing on a team knowing that the head coach's future is in high jeopardy. And are the players in the boat of, man, let's just get this guy out of here and move on? Or do you fight? Do you show up and perform for your coach and give it everything you've got to try and keep him around? That's the mindset I would have. That's the mentality I think I would have. And for so many of these guys to be older, right, to be the older generation of Indiana players or just older basketball players, you would hope that that's the case. You would hope that they show up in a game like tonight against Wisconsin, that you would want to play for your head coach, who we're legitimately talking about could be fired if you don't win. So I ask you, and drop your comments in your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below, or you can tweet at us at Locked On Hoosiers on X. If Mike Woodson loses tonight, should he be fired? Is it win or be fired from here on out for Mike Woodson? In games against, right? We have Wisconsin here tonight. You have Michigan this weekend, at Michigan State, home versus UCLA, and then the home game against Purdue. Plus Penn State, Washington, Oregon, and Ohio State. Is he coaching for his job every single night he steps on the floor? I'll let you be the judge, but I don't think it's the craziest thing to say. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, Indiana, we are on the road in Madison. We're taking on the Badgers of Wisconsin. We'll talk about that and how Mike Woodson can possibly keep his job and Indiana can get their best win of the season. We got that coming up for you next, right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, over a year, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of different options. And the seat view feature it really is a game changer. You can see your exact view from any seat in any venue, and it's accurate. It's not a guess. It's not a, well, here's what we think you're going to see. No, they have every view from every seat. And before you hit buy, you know exactly what you're going to get when you get there. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's download the Game Time app and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on all things Indiana athletics. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate all of my everydayers who come back each and every day. You guys are the reason this show is so successful. And as I do every day, I want to ask you to do just a few things before we move on. For all my audio listeners, if you're on any podcasting platform, that's Spotify, that's Amazon, that's Apple, any platform that we are on Locked On Hoosiers, thank you so much for listening each and every day. Be sure that you are subscribed if you can, following if you can. You've got those notifications, right? That little bell, hit that so you never miss any episodes of Locked On Hoosiers. We also like to post bonus episodes throughout the week and on the weekends, and I don't want you to miss those. So be sure you do all that. And for my YouTube audience, as we continue to grow like crazy here as well, like this video. That helps us grow. That helps other people find it. More Indiana people can be involved in this only daily Indiana podcast. You can also leave your thoughts down below in the YouTube comments. Is Woodson on the hot seat going into tonight? Plus your game picks for Indiana and Wisconsin. And then by the end of it, make sure you have subscribed to the channel. It takes one click. You're automatically in. You are a part of this community. It's free, and you'll be notified every time that we post a new episode. So thank you for doing all of that. I really do appreciate you. All right, Indiana and Wisconsin tonight. The Hoosiers are on the road in Madison. It's a place, that we're not super big fans of, as Wisconsin this year. They're 11-1 on their home floor, and they're outscoring opponents inside this building by 11 points. And this game worries me. It would worry me if it was neutral site. It would worry me if it was inside of Assembly Hall. Wisconsin is just a solid team. Wisconsin is exactly who they always are. Are they just world beaters? No, I don't think so. Are they going to win the national championship? No, probably not. But they're just that scrappy, great defensive team that you don't want to play. You don't want to play them in conference play. You don't want to catch them in March because they're well coached, they're disciplined, and they can knock down shots. They're averaging over 80 points a game right now, is this Wisconsin team. And a couple of guys you need to look out for. They've got a great pair of guards with John Tonje and John Blackwell, guys that are averaging almost 19 and 15 points a game. That's what Indiana's got to worry about. Also, another pair of double-digit scorers in Nolan Winter, and Max Klesmit is the guard as well. And Nolan Winter is the one that I want to look at for just a second because he's 6'11", 235. All right, 6'11", and 235. Just listen to some of the numbers that this guy's got going for him. 10 points a game. Also has, 10 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, and he can shoot at a 59% clip, 79% free throw shooter, and knocks down 40% of his threes. Doesn't take a bunch of them, but can knock them down when he needs to. That's the guy that Indiana's got to go up against. Between him, Steven Crowell, you may see a little bit of Xavier Amos as well, but those are the ones down low that you'll be seeing fighting with Oumar Ballo, Malik Reneau if he gets in the game, guys like that. And look, I'm going to say it. I think Oumar Ballo can have a really good game again, which we have come to expect from Oumar Ballo, right? We expect him to go for 15-10, 16-12, 18-13. Like, he has proven that Oumar Ballo can do that. He has proven that to us, that he's got that in the bag. And Indiana's going to need it tonight. And I think that's where you have to go. I think that's where our offense works the best. It's no secret. Everybody knows it. Remember last year in games like this? It was, where's Khalil Ware? Get it to Khalil Ware. Get it to Khalil Ware. And what's crazy is we were asking, and especially me, we were saying, man, we got to get away from that just a little bit because that's the only thing we could do. Because I don't think we had the shot makers last year. I don't think we had the playmakers last year to get away from that. And if teams shut it down, which they did, then we found ourselves in trouble. I think the difference, though, from last year's team to this year's team is we have playmakers. We have guys that can score the basketball. If Mackenzie Mbako keeps playing the way he's playing, don't take the rock out of his hands. If Miles Rice can, come back down to earth, or I guess come back up to earth, if you will, and start playing relevant, competitive, beneficial basketball to Indiana, he's a big part of this offense too. And Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal, guys like that can help you make shots and not have to go to your big man every single time. And I think the X factor in this game is Malik Reneau. How much does Malik Reneau play? Better way to phrase that. How much can Malik Reneau play? Because if he's in foul trouble all night, sit him down. Because I said it yesterday and I'll say it again today. Malik Reneau, when he gets in foul trouble, he is a detriment to this team. He's hurting this team because Oumar Ballo's having to play more minutes. Malik Reneau's not scoring. He's not rebounding. He's not blocking. He's not doing anything except watching, just like you and me. But he's sitting on the bench. He got a courtside seat because he can't stay out of foul trouble. He can't stay in the game. But if he does, I think Indiana's got a good chance. It's their guards versus our guards. Now, they shoot it at a very nice clip, does this Wisconsin team. All right. They shoot it pretty well. Again, they average 81 points a game. They shoot it at 46% as a team. They shoot 85% as a team at the free throw line, and they shoot 36% from the three-point arc. We cannot get them and put them on the foul line. We cannot get in foul trouble because they will gladly stretch this game out, make it 2.5 hours long. It's already a late night tip, so you're already going to be mad at me too because we all got to work the next day. They are happy to make this thing go 2+ hours and beat you at the free throw line. That's what they're going to do, and they're happy to do it. And you look at what some of their games have looked like in Big Ten play. They're pretty good defensively. They're pretty good, right? Look at some of their games. They lost to Michigan their first game. They also lost to Illinois in that second game. So we forget that they started 0-2 in Big Ten play. They dropped 116 on Iowa's head back on January 3rd. I forgot about that one. Only gave up 63 to Rutgers, which is impressive. Only gave up 59 to Minnesota, 68 to Ohio State, 69 to USC. Gave up 85 in a loss to UCLA. 55 in a win to Nebraska, 76 in a loss to Maryland, and just 69 in a win over Northwestern. So in their wins, teams are not scoring more than 70 points. In their losses, teams are scoring 80 plus. That's a pretty big differential, right? You're talking about a team scoring in the 60s versus scoring in the 80s. So 15, 20-point difference. So, as stupid as it sounds, you've got to go on the road and make some shots tonight. Indiana cannot win this game 69-68. It's just not going to happen. The stats tell us so. But are we good enough to go in there and drop 85 on them in their own building? I don't know. I think we are. I think we can be. That's a better way to say it. I think we can be if you run the offense the way you're supposed to run it and you get the right guys on the floor. Anthony Leal's got to be out there. Of course, Oumar Ballo's got to be out there. And I think Mackenzie Mbako's got to make some shots, man. We need him to take over and be what he has been in these last couple of games. And if he is, I think Indiana's got a shot. I don't think Wisconsin's just this crazy best team in America. I don't. But you're on the road. And Madison, a place that has not been kind to us in recent years and kind to a lot of people in recent years. Indiana on the road at Wisconsin. And I loop back to the original question. Is Mike Woodson coaching for his job? And maybe he's not, but I think he should be. I think he should have that mentality, and maybe we come out with a little fire. Maybe we come out with a little effort, a little passion for the logo, for the colors, for the brand, for the school. and for your head coach. And if you do those things, then you've got a good chance. And I'll say this too before we move on. If Indiana comes out and plays the way we did against Purdue Friday night, and we fall short against a top 25 team by 1 or 2 possessions, but we play the way we did, that will buy Woody some time. Unless there are late game blunders like we saw against Purdue. I can't handle that anymore, and I don't think you can either. But if we're showing positivity and we're showing some growth that we're going in the right direction, is it too late for that? Yeah, you can make that argument. But it's better than going in and getting the doors blown off. If you lose by 20 or 30 tonight, wrap it up. Call it quits. Hang it up. Let's move on. That's kind of where I sit on all this. So Indiana and Wisconsin tonight. Late tip, 9 o'clock on Peacock. So be sure you sign up for that. You can follow along, do whatever you need to. Indiana on the road at Wisconsin. All right, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll make it quick. We'll look around the latest Big Ten standings as the new week begins. I guess we're just underway in the new big week. So we'll look at Big Ten standings plus the latest bracketology and tell you where the Hoosiers fall in all of that. That's coming up right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all my everydayers, or if you're new here, hope you're enjoying it. We're having a lot of fun with the show. All right, Big Ten standings for men's college basketball. And my goodness, I was looking at this thing before hopping on and hitting record, and it's a mess. It is a mess on what this thing looks like, because there is the bottom few teams. I would say the bottom 4, right? The bottom 4 teams. You've got your top 2 or 3 teams, if you want to include Michigan in there, and then there's everybody else. And this conference is so big now that there's so many teams that there has to be some that are just not good. In the bottom 4 are Penn State, Northwestern, Minnesota, and Washington. For Indiana, you've already played Penn State, you lost to Northwestern, you beat Minnesota, and you've got Washington coming up later in the schedule. In the top 3, you've got Michigan State, who is now number 9 in the AP poll after they lost over the weekend. You have Purdue at the 2nd spot at number 7 in the AP poll. Indiana gets another shot at them in a few weeks. And then Michigan is back inside the top 25 at 8-2 overall. Michigan State's 9-1, Purdue's 9-2, Michigan's 8-2. Then there's everybody else in this Big Ten conference. Then there's everybody else. Listen to this. Maryland, UCLA, Wisconsin, 7-4. Then you have Illinois, 7-5. Then there's a little bit of a drop-off. That's the next echelon. That's the second quadrant, if you will. Then in the third quadrant, you have USC 5-5, Oregon 5-6, Indiana 5-6, Ohio State 5-6. I say that's the third quadrant. The fourth quadrant would be Iowa, Rutgers, and Nebraska, 4-6, 4-7, 4-7, and then those bottom 4. So what is that? I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm breaking the Big Ten up into 5 quadrants right now, from best of the best to worst of the worst. And I would put Indiana in that third quadrant. We're hanging around with the likes of USC, Oregon, and Ohio State. Not a bad crowd to be with, but we are trying to get out of that basement. And you know what the teams ahead of us have, other than a number next to their name? They have quality wins. They have legitimate wins. They have resume building wins. We don't have those. We don't. According to the net rankings right now, as I get them pulled up, I thought I did. So getting those pulled up right now. For Indiana this season, the Hoosiers, as we're trying to win any sort of game and make it to the NCAA tournament, right? You've got to have what they call quad 1 wins. You hear me talk about this all the time. Indiana right now, we are 2-8 in quad 1 games. 2-8 in quad 1 games. Now, having 2 wins, that's fine. A team like Iowa, who's ahead of you in the net rankings, they're 0-7. They don't have any of them. A team below you, San Francisco, yikes, they're 0-4. So you at least have a couple, and the committee looks at that. The thing that I'm looking at, though, you have 8 losses in quad 1 games. But as crazy as it sounds, from what I've experienced, the NCAA tournament committee doesn't really care about your losses in quad 1. As crazy as that sounds, all they want to know is, well, how many quad 1 wins do you have? And without going through and doing the full research here quickly, I think for Indiana, you're going to have so many quad 1 opportunities. It's insane, because quad 1 means it's a top 30 team at home, a top 50 team neutral site, and a top 75 team on the road. So that's what, according to the net rankings, top 30 at home, top 50 neutral site, and top 75 on the road. Well, you're going to have Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State. My guess is UCLA, Purdue is in there, Oregon's in there, Ohio State's in there. So you at least have 7 more quad one opportunities to get good wins. Win 3 or 4. You win 3 or 4 of those, and you probably have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. Isn't that the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life? Because according to the latest bracketology, now this was made back on the 31st. What day was that? Was that Friday, I believe? Indiana's still a bubble team, according to Joe Lunardi. We're the next 4 out. All you got to do is win a couple of games that mean something, that actually make a little noise, that throw some ripples in the pond, and we're right back in the conversation. And isn't it crazy to look at where we are as a team and a program in 24-25? We're either saying, get some wins, make the tournament, and who knows what happens. And on the flip side, it's, if you lose this game, Woody, see you later. We're looking for a new head coach. But I think that's where we are. I think that's where you are as a fan. I think that's where I am as a fan. I think that's where most people around this program are, who support and love Indiana basketball. Tonight's a great opportunity. You've got a chance to do it on the road at Wisconsin, move up the Big Ten standings, move up the net rankings, and move up in the latest bracketology as well. Or Indiana could do something crazy. And if you get blown out, they pull the plug, and the Mike Woodson era could be over just like that. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you again so much for being here, man. If you can't tell, I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this, and I hope that you are as well. For my audio listeners, one more time, have our notifications turned on. Follow us if you can. Leave a 5-star review. That helps us get out there as well. And for YouTube, like the video, comment your score predictions down below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? We'll have a full breakdown on tomorrow's episode, late game. Got some things going on, so we'll recap everything coming up on the show tomorrow, all right? So until then, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.